Dude, calm down, guys. It's not that big of a
Slow down. From the battlefield to the boardroom, today we are bringing our 10-minute talk on tactics. You are here again, as always, with Philip Folsom and the Wolf Tribe and Col Garth, CommandReady. And we are here today to talk to you about things we have seen, stuff we know or think we know that makes us bigger, badder, better. And today we're working on war stories again. We thought we would share a couple ideas of things that have happened to us rather than just sort of preaching ideas of leadership. And I thought I'd switch the order up a little bit this time and actually go first so that you can close out with Philip. So I want to tell you a little story about moving into Iraq. So when I was a captain, I had a CAT team. It's a combined anti-armor team. They're Humvees with the machine guns up top. And we're essentially like the cavalry for an infantry unit, right? So the infantry unit's all stacked up in vehicles or marching or whatever. And we have these trucks with machine guns. And we go around and we look at things in the front and we protect the flanks and we bring things up from the rear and protect the log train, that sort of thing. So very, very busy running around. And as we went into the opening invasion in Iraq, we crossed the border with Kuwait. We traveled up through the desert. We were moving into the city called Nasiriyah. And as we were approaching the city, there was already a fight going on in there. There was another battalion that was engaged. There had been, a bunch of activity. And so there are Cobra helicopters flying overhead, shooting Hellfire missiles. There's artillery rounds, exploding here and there. And, there's noise and it's dark. The sun had not come up yet. And we're driving up to the southern end of the city. And as we're driving up, tensions are rising, right? Like every time you get into a tight situation, your adrenaline starts going and you're just ready, you're primed. And we're driving along primed and a massive explosion hits just off to the left side of the truck. And I thought that they were shooting and the artillery round had landed just to the side of us. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but we have radio or radar arrays. And when you shoot at American forces, we can see where the trajectory was. We'd use math. We figure out where it came from. And then the computers will line the artillery to counterfire and get back to the point of origin. So you have to say a code word. And then after you say the code word, you give the grid of where the impact was so they can slew the radar over and catch rounds as they're flying through the air. Well, when that explosion went off, I lost my mind. It was the first time we'd really been shot at. It was the first time something had exploded right next to us. And I grabbed my map and I grabbed the radio set and I called into the battalion, hey, this is, we got a snowstorm. And I gave the radio code. And then I read off on, I looked to the map to read the grid coordinate. And as I'm about to read the grid coordinate, I looked back up and back through the window. And I don't know why, right? Like you figure you read maps by reading them. You don't read them by looking through the window. But I turned over and I looked out the window. And as we passed, in my mind, I'm thinking, thank goodness they missed. And then I thought they're going to adjust and get the guys behind us. So it's just adrenaline, all this anxiety like building up to go. And as I look out the window, I see this line of howitzers, U.S. howitzers pointed forward. And it occurred to me in like a flash that what I had heard, what the explosion was not a round landing. It was rounds going out. There's a cone in front of the howitzers where the sound is really, really loud. And my truck had just slipped into that zone. And as the rounds went out, I heard this massive explosion and all that tension, all that anxiety, all that fear built itself up into grabbing the radio and just going through the reflex reactions, right? Something happened. Well, here's what I'm going to do about it. And I jumped into what I was going to do about it. But then as I looked over and realized it was outbound and it was actually us, it suddenly occurred to me that I, as the leader with the radio, had just spread panic to everyone else because now they all thought there was incoming fire. And so, of course, like a true professional, I grabbed the mic and said, negative. This is Cat 6. That was my call sign. This is Cat 6. That's outbound. Just keep doing your jobs. And I hang the radio back up. And my Lance Corporal, who's behind me, great guy, my radio operator goes, real smooth, sir. And we just kept driving up into the city and went on into the movement through town. But, that story has always been so many layers for me because it represents a lot of things. One, you got to slow down. Like if you are running on adrenaline, on fear, on anxiety, you're not going to make good decisions. You're going to do knee-jerk reactions. That's where road rage comes from. That's where people who sit at a family dinner and get involved in an argument about politics comes from. This is how Thanksgivings and Christmases are ruined. If you're running off fear and anxiety, you're going to be running on just an instinct response. And you have to take a minute to really take it in your environment. And so if you're out there and you're listening to the story, like I had a chance to recover by picking up and pretending like I was the second person on the radio telling the first person to calm down. And of course, you lower your voice and you do a different sound on the radio, but make sure you know what's happening before you jump into it. And that would be my war story today. Ready?
That's a good. Leaders are the head of culture, right?
Yeah.
Our behavior is literally modeling and creating the behavior of our people. So super important. You talk a lot about command bearing in your workshops, and I think of that a lot.
Oh, we live on nonverbal.
Good language.
Our ability to project things is important because humans interact and play off each other. And so if you walk in and you're cut down a little bit, people will feel that, and they will assume whatever they want to be thinking about the situation, or your posture might be because you have a sore back, and they're assuming that everyone's getting laid off because the department's being closed. Like we are bad at reading nonverbals, even though we exist by reading nonverbals. And so the way you interact with people, hugely important, and how you carry yourself is very, very important. So, hey, what have you got today?
All right, cool. I don't have a cool war story about that. But my first MOS when I went in was 82 Charlie, which is Field Artillery Surveyor. So I get a little cringe whenever I think about the responsibility of pointing those big guns in the right direction. It just was shocking to me they were going to let me, some 18-year-old kid, orient this giant engine of death and go like, yep, that way. So anyway, I got a little anxiety just you sharing that story. Okay, my story is from a personal context. I have always loved wolves, and I had a chance to bring a bunch of veterans out to a wolf sanctuary because I believe that they had some similarities of being perceived as volatile and dangerous animals. Well, maybe not animals as veterans, but mammals that were misunderstood and therefore ostracized and not well integrated into the world. Demonized, vilified. Anyway, brought a van load full of veterans working on some resiliency work out to go see the wolves. Not really sure of exactly what the outcome was going to be, but that it would be valuable. And we get the pile out of the van, and the guys there who are running the wolf sanctuary had a couple wolves with them, and we all get out for a meet and greet. And the first thing that happens, like before the guys were even out of the van, was these two wolves locked up in this giant wolf fight, which was just my nightmare, considering I was hoping for it to be a healing experience for everyone. And when wolves get into it, it sounds like tyrannosaurs. It sounds like Klingons fighting. And when a wolf stands up on its back leg, it's taller than you and I are. I mean, they can put their hands on your shoulders, and they've got really big teeth, and they sound very non-doggish. It's a terrifying thing. So, immediately I'm in just damage control from this wolf fight, trying to save this program and this experience. And I always had dogs, and I know that when you get two dogs in a dog fight, you break them up as quickly as possible because you're going to the vet. That's just the reality of dogs when they fight. And the handlers were doing nothing. They were sitting back, drinking coffee and watching it. And I was like, it's just infuriating. Aren't you going to do something about that? And the handlers say, no, that's just what they do. They don't bite each other. And I continued watching this altercation, and it took another 20 seconds. And then they had finished their display, which looked very violent, but what actually wasn't. A lot of noise, a lot of spit and posturing, but no actual lockdowns except for what looked like it was the placement of big jaws over other parts, but it wasn't actually biting. And they said wolves exist by killing large animals collaboratively with their face. They can't afford to bite each other, which is kind of a duh moment. I mean, of course, if they bit each other, they're going to degrade the function of the pack. They can no longer hunt. They will all go extinct. And it was a remedial awareness, but profound, because I realized that was us. That is obviously a military unit where you're going to share resources. You're going to take care of your brothers. It's true on sports teams. Like, you would never undermine another football player who's on your team. It's like undermining yourself. And so wolves really do have an embedded, hardwired kinship system that is inherently collaborative. They're designed to work on reciprocal, large-scale projects of hunting big animals. And work teams, the team that you're on, whoever you are watching this, is the same. You cannot fulfill your mission by yourself. You need to collaborate and partner with other people, and you can't afford to bite them. And what biting looks like in our current culture is gossip, undermining, disengagement, isolation, passive-aggressive behavior. I mean, the toxic human behavior just goes on and on and on, which is really like a little bite. You're constantly undermining, jockeying for position. And that was a profound awareness for me, because it really underscored how important it is to be collaborative and reciprocal and find ways that it's win-win for all the partnerships that you have, either coworkers or clients or even people in our family and community. It is vital that we recognize that we're all extensions of ourselves working on stuff together. And that was a kind of a game-changing experience for me that has never left me. And I continue, obviously, to work with the wolves because they're just loaded with lessons.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And in fact, if you haven't had an experience where you get to meet the wolves and talk about culture, call us. Because here's the thing, Philip does it as a program for companies all the time. And I work with Philip all the time when we do corporate training to bring the wolves out. Because until you see that, where two jaws are around each other but not touching, it's tough to realize. But then, when you brought me out and we started using the wolves, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, same thing. I started being incredibly aware of like, wow, what I did just there was biting. Like it didn't help anything, and it actually hurt our ability to communicate. In fact, go back and watch our video about don't be nice. Because it is the opposite of kindness when you start biting. Like, you need to be kind. And cool.
The other piece connected to that is when you recognize you're not actually trying to hurt each other, you've got good intentions, then you get to engage with conflict because it's not violent, which means I can say, hey, let me give you some feedback on that meeting. Or I can say, hey, the way that project ran could be improved. It opens up accountability.
There is nothing wrong with admonishing people when they are wrong, but there is something wrong with, telling other people how awful they are. Like, that's not, it's not the same thing. But behavior can be corrected. Mom used to say, right? Like, never make fun of people for something they can't fix. So, all right. Hey, that was our Battlefield to the Boardroom, a couple of war stories. And thank you for joining us today. We're here every week, and that's it. Have a great week. Do good things.
So keep fighting, but not biting.
Keep fighting, not biting. Yeah. And just slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
There you go.
All right, brother. We'll get you later.
See you, buddy. That's super cool. So, okay, war stories. You're gonna